This is RTV6 News at 5:30, working for you.
And now at 5:30, hospitals and doctors' offices have many restrictions during the pandemic. For one mother, that's causing heartbreak. Ahead, her story of going through a child's diagnosis without her husband by her side. Chris.
Here's what we're talking about today in our lineup. More big-name stores will soon require masks. Some are even adding people to enforce the rules. We're going to talk about the challenges, though, of getting people to follow those rules. Also, some people don't feel safe going to the doctor during the pandemic, how doctors are trying to change that so health problems aren't missed. Plus, June, it was a good month for the job market. We'll talk about who is rehiring, but also some of the issues that could still cause problems.
A local mother is frustrated this morning because her husband is not able to come to their newborn's doctor's appointments because of the pandemic. Our Kelsey Anderson explains her frustration comes as others are able to go to dinner and have large parties.
Because of COVID-19, many expecting mothers are having to go to doctor's appointments alone and only have one person there for delivery. And mothers like Chelsea Davis Granberry are asking hospitals to ease those restrictions.
I struggle with anxiety, so I was very anxious, from the beginning, especially because mid through my pregnancy, I had to do the appointments and everything alone.
Chelsea Davis Granberry gave birth nearly a month ago to her third child, Navy June Granberry. She says during her pregnancy, her experience going to appointments was okay.
The hospitals did try to make it very normal for us. Not a lot of talk about COVID or, what's going on. The only abnormal part was everybody's wearing masks.
But when Navy was born, doctors diagnosed her with Down syndrome.
They can detect Down syndrome on ultrasounds, but they had no indication that on her ultrasound she had Down syndrome. So it was 100% a birth diagnosis.
And today she says she's grateful they found at birth because that meant her husband was there to support her.
I'm very emotional, so had I found out at my appointments without him there or without anybody there, I don't know that I would have been able to handle that.
Now that Navy is home, Granberry says her frustration is growing because her husband isn't able to come to her occupational and physical therapy appointments.
They're actually working with her at such a young age, telling us exercises, telling us things to do because she does have Down syndrome. And when I'm taking all of that in by myself along with all the other information, one, it's hard to remember, and two, it's just very emotional.
She tells me she agrees the hospitals need to keep people safe, but she's hoping the restrictions will ease soon so her husband can go to the appointments with her.
Right, we can go out to eat, we can have parties, we can, invite people into our homes, but he can't come to our appointments together, and it makes me sad.
I did reach out to St. Vincent Hospital. That's where Navy is having her appointments, and they tell me that they are following CDC recommendations and guidelines, but they do offer iPads so a second parent or guardian can participate in the appointments virtually. I'm Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Thanks, Kelsey. A little bit of an unusual July day here in central Indiana. A lot of cloud cover, but very little rain associated with those clouds. Storm Team 6 radar and the satellite shows that we are starting to see some clearing working into western portions of Indiana, and that's good news for viewing Comet Neowise later on tonight. Best viewing going to be about 11:15 to just before 1 a.m. You want to look on that northwest horizon, and then tomorrow night, just a few minutes later, best viewing window starts at 11:22. Looking at Greencastle, and we do see a little bit of that blue sky starting to work its way in. Our temperature is 78 in Indianapolis as we've been locked into that cloud cover. A little warmer for you in Kokomo at 81. It's 77 in Bloomington. As we go through the next few hours here, we'll continue to clear out those clouds a little bit. Temperatures will hold pretty steady in the lower 70s. And that muggy meter, that's going to be rising here as we go into the upcoming weekend. How much hotter that will make it feel in a few minutes. Chris.
Well, if you're struggling with mental health, it is getting easier to get help. Today, the FCC saying 988 will be the new national 3-digit phone number for the Suicide Prevention and Mental Health Hotline. It'll be up and running over the next 2 years. And once that change happens, 988 calls will be directed to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Now, that Lifeline number will still work. The number is on your screen, 1-800-273 8255. Well, Twitter is still trying to figure out who's behind that high-profile hack yesterday. Tweets from verified accounts sending out messages saying that they would send money to anyone who sent cash to a Bitcoin address. Now, experts say whoever's behind it, they use something called social engineering, which is when bad guys, they'll send phishing emails, text, or a phone call, in this case to a Twitter employee, to then get their credentials to get inside.
I can often gain access to an admin panel like the Twitter hack in less than 5 minutes with a social engineering phone call or a phishing email.
Rachel Toback trains and tests people on hacking through her company's Social Proof Security. She says sometimes a simple call from someone pretending to be with IT does the trick to convince someone to share information.
You have to be politely paranoid. That's the phrase I like to use. That just means be skeptical.
The sophistication of a spear phishing attack these days is very, very, complicated. And it's not surprising that really anybody could fall compromised to it.
These types of tactics have worked on employees, banking firms, and phone companies. The pandemic has created more opportunities for these types of attacks.
There's no question that, we're going through this cyber pandemic as we're going through a healthcare pandemic. One of the biggest challenges that we need to figure out when we all work from home is that source of identity, right? Who we are online and how we can be sure that who we're talking to is who we think that they are.
Mark Ostrowski says companies should give the majority of employees little access as possible so they have less information to give away. Everyone else should use geo-awareness or multi-factor authentication to get into any of their accounts. All right, let's get back to our lineup. And Kohl's and Walmart, there are two companies now requiring you to wear a mask at stores nationwide. Well, we're taking a look into how they can enforce the rules.
An Indianapolis farm is transforming into a socially distant drive-in entertainment venue starting Wednesday, July 29th. The Parking Lot Social will take over the Waterman family farm on East Raymond Street. The 5-day event will feature drive-in movies, games, live music, and comedy shows, all to be experienced from the comfort of your car. You can bring your own food or buy from food trucks on site. You will also be allowed to step outside of your vehicle and dance as long as you respect the space of the cars next to you. Tickets start at $29 per car. For more info, click on the link in this story at theindychannel.com.
A growing list of stores are making masks mandatory. Some employees have already faced challenges, though, enforcing the rules. And those in the industry, they are asking everybody to remember that it's not just for the safety of the customers, but also the staff.
They're doing the best they can in an 8-hour shift, wearing a mask the entire time. And then to go up to a customer and say, this is the rule in this city, or this is the rule in this store. It's unfortunate that so many people have resorted to violence and things have become so confrontational.
Christopher Howes with the Colorado Retail Council says that he's worried that people will confuse company policies with public health orders. Now, legally speaking, there are limits to individual rights.
The government has the right to enforce things for the health and safety of the community. They have that right within the Constitution and within the legislation.
Now, attorney Kelly Duford Williams does think that Walmart has a good plan. It's hiring employees that will be trained on mask policies to help enforce them. She does think all employees should be trained, but you still have those special ones who are ready for a customer that says they don't have to wear a mask.
And that way, it's all being resolved in the same manner and not in a discriminatory manner. That will help solve some of those problems.
Williams recognizing hiring more employees to enforce masks or increase security will be more of a challenge for small businesses, but not following statutes can leave them open to a minefield of potential lawsuits. Let's check back in with our lineup. Concerns about our safety now, they're bringing up concerns about our future health.
People don't want to go to clinics, right? People don't even want to go to grocery stores.
Doctors are worried health problems are being missed with people staying away from clinics. How some hope to reach patients by bringing back an old technique. Mortgage rates continue to fall to record lows. Data released by Freddie Mac today showing a 30-year fixed mortgage is now at 2.98, which is the lowest it's been in about 50 years. Another 1.3 million people filing new unemployment claims last week. That's according to the Department of Labor. Now, we've seen more than 1 million new jobless claims for 17 weeks straight. Alicia Nieves shows us where jobs are rebounding, but also taking a look at some of those concerns moving forward.
There's been a significant bounce back in the U.S. job market, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest monthly unemployment report. 4.8 million people were able to go back to work in June. Businesses in hospitality and leisure, food services and drinking, and retail were able to do the most rehiring.
The job market was bounced back pretty strongly in June, but we got to keep everything into perspective.
Ryan Sweet is an economist with Moody's Analytics.
You're looking at where we were prior to the coronavirus. We're still down roughly 15 million jobs. That's an enormous hole.
Economists like Sweet say the job rebound in June is likely over, and brace because at best the U.S. job market will likely reflect a lull for July.
The lull is, it's unclear how long that will last. We're hoping just through, the end of this year.
Hoping because as coronavirus cases continue to surge,
there's a possibility we actually see a decline in employment.
Companies like United and American Airlines are already signaling a warning to Congress, both recently reporting they may have to each lay off 25,000 workers, and analysts predict if other airlines have to do the same, the industry could lose up to 250,000 jobs. More concerning is that the airline industry is not the only sector now signaling serious job loss to come.
The ones that I'm most nervous about are state and local government, because it seems that there's less urgency for lawmakers to pass fiscal stimulus. If we don't get another round of fiscal stimulus, this lull is going to turn into a contraction.
Congress has been talking for 2 months about another stimulus package, but there is no clear signal that one will come in time.
The fact that we are still seeing new filings in excess of 1 million per week is alarming. It's heartbreaking.
I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
And as more businesses start to require you to wear a mask in public, the CEO of Salesforce says he thinks people should face fines if they don't wear them. Mark Benioff says it's similar to what the country faced when wearing your seatbelt in your car first became the law. Sometimes, he says, a hit to your wallets is the only way to get the message.
People said, but you know what, if I get injured, it's my body, it's my life. Well, at some point, the government has to step in and say, yes, you have to wear a mask. And if you're not wearing a mask, you're going to get fined. Just like if you don't wear a seatbelt, you get a fine. There's no difference.
Salesforce is the cloud computing company that employs around 1,700 people in Indiana. Benioff is one of the sponsors of a mask-making competition for young inventors. He says the goal is to design a mask that will entice more people to put them on to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. Kyle.
And the cloud cover today bringing us a rare, cool July afternoon. Many locations in the 70s, but you can certainly tell where that sunshine is popping out now. We've got temperatures over the western portion of the state making their way into the 80s. It's 81 right now in Greencastle, Lafayette at 83, while we sit at 78 in Indy and Richmond. Tonight, we'll continue to break those clouds apart. It's going to be a dry night for us, very little wind with a temperature of 67 degrees. May still have a few of those clouds left over here on Friday morning, but as the day goes on, we'll see more in the way of sunshine, and mostly clear skies tomorrow night will be important as you head out there to check out that comet once again. Your Friday forecast, as we take it hour by hour, there's the cloudy skies in the morning. But look at what happens. Once the sunshine pops out, we're at 80 degrees at 11 a.m., and we will get back to around 90 degrees for that afternoon high with mostly sunny skies. Afternoon high of about 90 in Greenwood and Indianapolis. That would be our 9th 90 of the month so far. All right, the 7-day planning forecast shows that things are going to be heating up even more as we go into Saturday and Sunday. Highs in the middle 90s. As we combine that with the high humidity that's going to be out there, fairly oppressive, we're going to have heat index values approaching 105 degrees by Sunday afternoon. Things improve temperature-wise next week as those rain chances go up. Chris?
Could coronavirus mean the return for the house call for doctors? Well, it's getting new life as health officials do worry that many Americans are putting off routine visits to the doctor. Chris Conti explores how this old idea might be a new way to manage the pandemic's pressures and help those who are isolated at home.
We have been forced by the virus to reimagine nearly everything, not the least of which is the way the American healthcare system functions.
It's pretty profound.
That is Stacy Chang. He's with the Design Institute for Health in Texas. And he says at this critical juncture, an old practice could be getting new life, the house call.
People don't want to go to clinics, right? People don't even want to go to grocery stores.
With so many of us avoiding the doctor right now, Chang says a reinvention of the house call could be a viable solution. And new portable technology means doctors could do everything from an ultrasound to checking your oxygen levels.
The notion of a house call means that the care provider, whether a physician or a nurse, can come in and get a more comprehensive view of you as a person.
Aside from keeping people away from hospitals where COVID-19 might be lurking, the house call gives physicians a chance to get to know their patients. Spending more than 10 minutes with someone in an office would give doctors a better chance to treat chronic diseases.
It's really a relationship between the person who's caring for you and the person who's being cared for.
The cost of a house call typically will cost you around $130, but most Medicare plans cover some kind of house visit. And physicians are worried that Americans in isolation are avoiding routine checkups. This idea could help manage some of that pressure while keeping people healthy.
The care that didn't happen, the routine care for managing chronic diseases and the people who would have gone in for interventions, we may end up having greater mortality from those missed interventions than COVID itself actually caused.
As we navigate life during a pandemic, the house call might be just what the doctor ordered. I'm Chris Conti reporting.
Chris, thank you. We start the news feed with new action to stop robocalls. Today, the FCC adopting new rules. It says will get rid of a liability concern that kept some companies from implementing better robocall blocking efforts. JetBlue and American Airlines joining forces as they look to speed up their recovery from the pandemic. Two airlines say that they're linking their loyalty programs. They'll also be marketing their flights in New York and Boston together to be more competitive in the Northeast. Rice University is getting creative for in-person classes in the fall. The Houston school says it's buying tents that can hold 50 students and a teacher. Houston has seen a recent spike in COVID cases. National lab companies are offering antibody tests as part of their return to work offerings, but doctors are warning that these tests shouldn't be used to determine whether it's safe for you to be back in the office.
There is not a perfect antibody test out there right now to determine individuals' immunity to COVID-19. The tests are getting better. We've come a long way in the last few months, but we're certainly not ready to do anything like give someone an immunity certificate or anything like that.
Quest Diagnostics and LabCorp are two companies offering the testing to employers. LabCorp does say that antibody testing should not be used as the sole basis to diagnose or exclude COVID-19 infection. Quest also emphasizes that it's unknown just how long antibodies do persist following an infection and if the presence of them actually gives you immunity. That is something the American Medical Association agrees with.
Everything needs to be taken in context. Have you been exposed to COVID-19? How careful have you been? Have you been in any settings where you might have been inadvertently exposed? The lab values themselves may not mean a whole lot. We still have a lot to learn when it comes to what defines immunity to COVID-19.
She also points to early studies on antibodies that indicate they may not last very long. She says that she's not sure antibody testing is ever going to be the way to go to determine when someone is safe to go back to work. Now, if you do get an antibody test, it's important to go over it with your doctor so they can help you understand the significance of it. The American Medical Association says antibody tests can be helpful to try to see just how many people in an area have been exposed to COVID-19 and also for determining if someone who had COVID is eligible to donate plasma. Well, there's an update on an initiative to get masks to schools across America. The Great American Mask Drive just kicked off a little more than a week ago. It's already received donations to make some 30,000 masks to send to elementary and middle schools, and soon it'll be adding more schools so you can donate, including to high schools. Hanes making the cotton reusable masks in the United States. Well, one final check of the lineup. You could see more robots in restaurants. Yeah, how this pandemic is fueling this trend and the issue that robots don't really help with when it comes to COVID-19. More restaurants are using robots. This week, White Castle said it will test the robot named Flippy. There he is. Flippy's going to work at the fry station, make some other foods. It'll start in some Chicago locations. The chain did think about doing this before the pandemic, but they say that COVID just made getting Flippy on the line more important. White Castle says it can free up workers for other tasks now, like disinfecting tables. Now, the National Restaurant Association surveyed restaurant operators, and the vast majority said that they now recognize the importance of technology in beating the competition.
It doesn't mean that, 10 years from now, robots are going to be serving food across the country. It just means for certain operators in certain segments under certain conditions, it is an entirely logical decision scenario to implement some type of technology solution.
There are concerns about what this technology doesn't address during the pandemic.
The main concern, I think, is that we need to focus not just on how the burger is flipped, but also how the burger is made. And the thing that I'm most concerned about today is that meatpacking facilities across the United States are hotspots for COVID-19.
Max Elder works with the nonprofit Institute for the Future, and he says that we need to really be thinking about creating a safer food supply chain. We need to think about those, meat industry workers and produce pickers. Now, he supports more automation in the kitchen, but he does worry that it'll create a system where we only make the kind of food and flip burgers that really just fit the autonomous systems. Well, we often think we need to work out more, and now a new type of tech has people trading dumbbells and treadmills for artificial intelligence and robots. Tomorrow, how this might be better and safer for people who haven't been to the gym in decades.
Sunshine returning in our finally Friday forecast. That's after a few morning clouds, and temperatures will make their way close to that 90-degree mark as we look ahead to the weekend. We are going to be in the 90s, combining that with the humidity that's going to be around, and we'll have heat index values well into the 100 to 105 degree range, and also a small chance for a shower or thunderstorm, but those rain chances will increase next week. Good news as we have some drought conditions